Although much of the world has come quite a long way in regulating Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, there is still a long way to go. Indeed, the cryptocurrency industry is perhaps one of the best examples of a truly global industry, a product of the 21st century. Companies have their pick of jurisdictions in which to establish their headquarters. Their platforms are accessed by users all around the globe, and the currency that they facilitate the movement of does not belong to any specific country. Therefore, regulators are facing challenges that were inconceivable even 20 or 30 years ago. The infrastructure to create the global regulatory fabric that may eventually be required to support the crypto industry and its users doesn't really exist yet. Until it does, companies and regulators alike are working with the best of what they do have access to. Recently, Finance Magnate spoke with Tomer Weiss, founder of Jango Labs and co-founder and CEO of Cytex. Jango is a company that develops web and mobile applications with integration into the Bitcoin protocol, while Cytex specializes in providing compliance officers with AML screening and monitoring technology. We asked Tomer about how regulations can improve in the cryptosphere from his perspective as a provider of compliant technological solutions. So Tomer, can you just, before we dive into some super heavy crypto stuff, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the cryptosphere in the first place?
Yeah, so basically my background is mobile tech entrepreneurship. My first company was called Monkeyboard. We built an application for learning people new languages on the go. And then always, I guess from around 2014, crypto was a habit, so I just I had Bitcoin and I just was part of the Bitcoin embassy in Tel Aviv. And just not as entrepreneur in this ecosystem, but just as a community member, was updated about what's going on. And the Bitcoin embassy community in Tel Aviv, this is the most veteran community of Bitcoin people in Tel Aviv. Through this community and through the online, and I learned a lot. And when I closed my first company, I started to open a service company called Jango Labs for the crypto sphere. And I started to work with many clients in the Tel Aviv ecosystem. And I also had a project with you guys at Finance Magnets, because in Jango Labs, we do blockchain development for fintechs. And sometimes those projects, most of the time, those projects are affected by the regulation. But I had also a project with a company called DX Exchange, and we made a hackathon, a startup tournament for blockchain startups at London. So.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about the work that Jango Labs does, and what kind of work it does in the cryptosphere?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of development, we do blockchain development, mainly Solidity, for several clients, and also we do kind of development that's related to sending Bitcoin and automation of sending Bitcoins for brokers and exchanges. We also do, this is one side of the company. The other side is more about technology-related events, such hackathons, which we work on, which we made one for a company called Space Mesh, also for eToro, DX Exchange, and also some non-profits for the Bitcoin Embassy. This is the community which I learn about Bitcoin the most. So I see everything we do for the Bitcoin Embassy is not for profit.
Okay.
Yeah, so I see it as giving back to the community.
That's great. So you are appearing as a panelist at the Barcelona Trading Conference on our regulatory panel. So I want to ask you, as kind of a preview to that, about your views and opinions from your position in the cryptosphere on the regulatory landscape. So just as a general question, from your perspective, which regulations are currently like the most lacking in order for crypto to gain greater adoption? So which part of the industry do you think can improve the most, or need to improve the most, perhaps, from regulation?
Yes, so for me, is a regulation about Bitcoin as a currency. A lot of people talk about, maybe approve ETF, maybe a security tokens, and also AML regulation. But I think the most innovative things and most disruption comes from from a decision that Bitcoin is a currency for tax purposes, because then it will be much more easy to accomplish the mission of Satoshi Nakamoto and the mission that starts this ecosystem, which is like a decentralized payment protocol.
Mm-hmm.
And until there will not be a regulation that says that for tax purposes Bitcoin is a currency, then it will not be so easy to use Bitcoin as a mean of payment. But if we will have this regulation, then I guess we will see a high increase in the adoption of Bitcoin, and it will become a mainstream.
Okay, so in your opinion, the thing that really needs to change is just that we need to establish Bitcoin as like a taxable currency.
Yeah, I think that we need to contain the forex regulation, the regulation of foreign currencies about Bitcoin, because right now the regulation about Bitcoin is as an asset. If you sell your Bitcoin, the tax regulation is like you sell an asset, a real estate, but I think in order to increase the thing that can increase the most the adoption of cryptocurrencies is to treat Bitcoin as a foreign currency in each country.
Right. Yeah, I know that especially in the United States, the tax laws around cryptocurrency, as you said, as an asset are just like incredibly complicated and actually leads to a lot of people not paying their taxes because it's so confusing for so many people. They just don't even bother with it, at least on the retail end of things.
Yes. Definitely, and I think it's also the most significant change, because in other regulations such AML for cryptocurrencies or security regulation for blockchain assets, what I see is like the regulator says, okay, we need a little bit to create we need a little bit to create to do small changes in the regulation so it will fit, but basically the regulator says that most of the projects need to think as themselves and need to work with the current regulation about any security. So but things that need a change, I think like the most impact will come from said that Bitcoin is a foreign currency, and the regulation of foreign currencies is relevant for Bitcoin.
Right. So do you think that, in order for that to become a reality, do you think that it's possible that, some sort of international decision could be reached? Or would it need to happen sort of on a jurisdiction by jurisdiction basis? Like the United States decides, okay, this is a foreign currency. Israel decides this is a foreign currency. Or, in your opinion, would it be, I guess, even possible for countries, for the world to agree that Bitcoin is a foreign currency? How would that happen?
I think Israel will not be the first regulation to say that the foreign currencies regulation is relevant for Bitcoin. If it will come from the States, definitely Israel will consider it positively. Usually, we wait for a much bigger countries to decide, and then we are going in line with their decision. And I think there needs to be a change, and I think the regulators in the States need to have a little bit more trust, because right now we have like a famous, verdict called Koppel verdict. There was a case called Koppel in Israel, and I saw some of the argument of the judge, and he quoted like the director of the national currency council, I think, and a lot of international directors from famous institutes that says that not trust in Bitcoin, and their argument is that there is a lot of volatility in Bitcoin, and but I think there should be a lot of education about the advantage of Bitcoin as a currency, and if people will understand the advantage and if there will be a way to rethink what is a foreign currency, and it can promote it.
Right. So yeah, I mean, and it's true that the governments around the world, sort of lag behind the industry. Certainly, like obviously, you and I think, share a lot of views about Bitcoin and its benefits as a currency and other cryptocurrencies as well. But it's been the industry itself that has really driven the regulatory effort forward, rather than the regulators. I would argue, and I'm curious if you've seen any efforts to self-regulate in the industry that have stood out to you in particular as being particularly effective for the crypto industry.
Definitely, I can give you 2 examples.
Yes.
First is the like exchanges and brokers. They build themselves their own AML program, and they build themselves their own operation to detect suspicious activity. And it's self-regulation for choosing the risk with which client to work. And I work with many companies that build, every company that sell Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin should have this kind of AML guidelines or AML risk procedure. And from what I saw in the ecosystem in Israel, companies build a serious self AML risk operations that, and they try to, They try to learn from, they do the benchmark from other regulation, how should they work. Even there is a lot of uncertainty, and the regulator not always say this is the this the regulator didn't say exactly from what behavior you should protect, or what behavior you should alarm, but I saw a lot of effort to create very good anti-money laundering procedures.
Mm-hmm.
This is first thing. Another thing, there is projects like so this from in Israel, I saw it also in it also in Bits of Gold, also in the X Exchange. I know they treat it very well. Also, another important thing is a few companies in the Israeli ecosystem establish an institute called Israel Blockchain Forum. And actually, each company pay to hire one guy. His name is Igal Nevo, really smart guy, who help all the companies to better comply for the regulation, and create their own and improve their operation that could be affected by regulation. So he do all this kind of work for all the companies that are apart from this blockchain forum. So also this kind of organization is really helpful. But also I saw also a good thing like from project like Space Mesh, which is a payment token. So unlike other payment tokens, they don't do bounty, and right now the token are locked, and they wait until there will be an actual product. So it will be an actual utility token and not a security token. So they are not release the token at a stage that they are in testnet, like other the protocol. They will release the token only when there will be an actual protocol, and there will be a utility with this token. So this is example for self-regulation. They understand that the SEC says, they understand the SEC attitude according a token that people buy because they accept his value will increase. And they decided that they want to release this token only when there is actual product that this token can fuel or drive. So it will be a utility token. So I see also there is many examples for project like this. I personally work with them, so it's nice to see.
That's good. Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see that people in the industry are holding the industry accountable for the things that it does. Sort of on a similar note, I'm wondering if, from your perspective, given the fact that there are so many different levels of regulation depending on which jurisdiction a company is established in, there's a different set of benefits and drawbacks for each and every jurisdiction that crypto companies choose to establish themselves in. In your opinion, do you think that it's sort of better for a new company to choose to establish itself somewhere like Seychelles or St. Mauritius, or somewhere that doesn't necessarily have a lot of regulatory oversight? Or do you think it's better for a company to establish itself somewhere like Switzerland or Japan, or somewhere that has well-established cryptocurrency regulations?
I prefer certainty. So I always say that it's better to establish the company where there is the much certainty about crypto regulation. And also in a state where the regulation is accepted by other states. Because the US threatened, if I quite remember, about the Marshall Island activities, other regulation didn't like how they operate. But and I think what a crypto entrepreneur needs the most is a certainty, regulation certainty. And if there is a country that have a clear certainty about crypto activity from exchanges to issuance of a token and so on, I think it's better because what entrepreneur need is a certainty. You need to know what is the exact regulation, and you don't want to be you don't want bad surprises that will make you to move the business in a year from now to other jurisdictions.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. So kind of given the fact that these companies are operating in different levels of regulation and also the different self-regulatory efforts that have sprung up across the industry, I'm wondering if you see sort of a cohesive big picture of like the ethical culture that's forming in the cryptocurrency industry as far as what these both from a self-regulatory standpoint, such as the anti-money laundering and things like that you've mentioned, but also as far as companies becoming sort of socially conscious. That's something that's particularly important to millennial consumers. Do you see an ethical culture forming in the crypto industry?
So actually there is always a small examples, like there is project like Space Mesh and Chia, which says their blockchain is green and it's it's better than proof of work, and so on. I am a huge believer about social responsibility for any company, crypto and non-crypto company. I think it's really important, and I think there is a lot of place for improvement in the crypto and Bitcoin embassy. I think maybe all the community effort, all the hackathons that protocols do, all this let's say ETH global hackathons and investing a lot of resources in the ecosystem may be a part of a social responsibility, or maybe it also serves a strategic of building an ecosystem on top of the protocol. But it's also a lot about giving back to the ecosystem, and those events are great, and they help to entrepreneurs to build projects, to learn more about new technologies. So I think in terms of like community events, giving a lot of value back to the ecosystem by hackathons, meetups, workshops, they are doing really well in this perspective. But in terms of much more in terms of like I think that in other aspects they can improve.
Yeah.
In other, they definitely can improve, and they can do. I think there is many other field of social responsibilities they can get involved with.
Okay, well, Tomer, can you tell our listeners where they can find you or find Jango or Cytex?
Definitely. So on the online sphere, you can always